Mystics have a long-standing tradition passed down through the ages, delving into the origins of languages. In particular, ancient and extinct languages are the most important for holy purposes because they have never changed, and this characteristic adds considerable value to them. This approach is fundamentally based on the belief that all languages in the world ultimately originate from a single mother tongue. And this theory is not to be dismissed, because the research of these mystics is revealing hints of a very, very ancient language. This secret language, if mastered and learned to speak, can enable communication with extraordinary and divine beings, even with angels and even directly with God himself. When we delve deeper into the profound mysteries of history, we encounter a concept called the celestial language, the language of angels, or more commonly known as the Enochian language. Yes, Enoch mentioned here is the famous Prophet Enoch I recently talked about. Make sure to watch my video about him if you haven't watched it yet, because he is an extremely important prophet in the history of religions and ancient aliens. Although we reach some secrets of the Enochian language from the Torah and the Book of Enoch, the revelation experiences of two English researchers living in the 16th century adds a deeper element. At the beginning, there was nothing, and everything came into being through the Word of God. According to the legend, these holy words are etched onto 49 celestial tablets. Not only the words that actualize creation, but also the words opening the gates of heaven. All the information about the past, present, and future are ingrained into these ancient tablets. Now, I know it sounds too fantastic when I put it this way, but you must have heard of these tablets throughout history. The Egyptians have called them the Book of Thoth. In Hebrew, they have been called Sefer Raziel, the Book of Raziel, the Angel of Mysteries. In esotericism, they are referred to as the Emerald Tablets. There is also a beautiful example in the divine religions, the matter of the names taught to Adam. Here, without delving into the depths of the topic, researchers who only approach it with heavenly religions say that God taught Adam the name of everything. Names of animals, names of natural events, etc. However, this is wrong. What God taught Adam was actually that sacred language. And by using that language, Adam had knowledge of everything and learned their names. This is a critical point. Thus, Adam had the ability to converse both with God and the angels, until he was banished from paradise. Adam and Eve, who were banished from paradise, could no longer speak with God and the angels. At this point, an interesting break occurs. In order to communicate with his family, Adam creates the first human language in our known sense, and while doing this, he benefits from what he remembers of the divine language taught to him in paradise, and he creates a version of the Abrahamic language, almost completely different from what we have today. For 7 generations, humanity evolves, spreads, and multiplies with this language derived from Adam. This is the first time humans had a single language. In the time of Enoch, the prophet of the 7th generation, God does something he hasn't done for ages, and takes Enoch to his own realm. The celestial language, once taught to Adam, is taught again to Enoch, and he is given a clerical duty between heaven and earth. This language is historically referred to as Enochian. It is said that one of the main reasons why the angels taught Enoch this holy language was to re-establish communication between humanity and celestial beings. Enoch thoroughly observes and studies the throne on his journeys to God's side, including the sacred 49 tablets. I talked about some of these experiences in my video about Enoch. After these experiences, Prophet Enoch, with the data he obtained from the infinite knowledge tablets, wrote between 100 and 366 books. The exact number is unclear. Enoch's goal was to enable humanity, which had been disconnected from the God for 7 generations, to develop again through these books. Unfortunately, things did not evolve as he expected. A war starts between the fallen angels, the humans who followed them, and God's realm, and in the end, nearly all of humanity, along with the fallen angels, is wiped out after the flood. For those of you who are curious to learn more about the fallen angels and how they have acquired this name, there is a detailed video on my channel where we delve deeply into the mysteries of this subject. I put the link to it in the description for you. Of course, a large part of the knowledge Enoch had hidden underground also disappears. After the flood, the ancient language of Adam continues to be used and accepted as the common language among humans. However, after the humans revive the knowledge learned from the fallen angels and start developing rapidly, humanity's second calamity takes place. Displeased by this rapid development, God and his angels lead to a situation known in history as the Tower of Babel and decimate humanity in a war. When this happens, as written in the holy books of the monotheistic religions, humanity's languages are mixed, and we are divided into tribes to fight against each other. As a result, Adam's language completely disappears from the stage of history. It was only after 1,000 years passed when an interesting event has occurred in perhaps one of the most unrelated places to the subject. We're in Renaissance England in the year 1582. Two individuals emerge, known in their time as prophets or revelation receivers. A world-renowned mathematician and an alchemist with a dark past. These two people who claim to have learned the knowledge of the forgotten language through the angels share the secrets of this language with humans, using mysterious encoded puzzles. After hearing what Dr. John Dee did with such revelation and prophecy information, you might think of him as someone who was eager to be popular, but you would be wrong. John Dee was, in fact, one of the most popular people in all of England at his time, not because of his prophecies, but because of his science. He was a world-renowned mathematician, linguist, inventor, cartographer, and expert in astronomy and astrology. Thanks to all this immense knowledge, Dee served as the chief advisor to Queen Elizabeth I of England. His compass calculations and mapping techniques played a critical role in guiding English colonial ships to explore the world. He even coined the term British Empire. There were two main reasons for him to gather all this knowledge. Firstly, he had full access to the archives of the empire at his time, along with his own massive library at home. And secondly, he lived during a period when the Renaissance was at its peak in England. During this beautiful age, art, science, and philosophy were finally free to develop unbiased and freely, escaping the oppressive influence of the church that had stagnated for thousands of years. The rate of rapid development was due to people's enthusiasm and freedom to investigate science, regardless if the subject was nonsensical or normal. Now, we've talked about John Dee's scientific achievements, but he was actually also a devout Christian. However, he claimed that all knowledge serves God, and proceeded to understand God by understanding the science behind creation. His fundamental approaches are seen in astrology and alchemy. However, what really intrigued Dee was theurgy, a subsidiary of occult sciences, that is, the work of God. This method's main goal is to interact or communicate with divine entities to obtain lost knowledge. Despite Dee's diligent research on this topic, for a long time, all his attempts were futile until a particular autumn evening in 1581. According to his diary, one evening, while he was kneeling down to pray, a light so bright it could have blinded him filled his room. A being that introduced itself as the angel Uriel gave Dee a bright, smooth crystal stone and explained that by looking at it, he could communicate with angels. You know, there's a figure in movies and books of a seer who sees the future in a crystal ball. The roots of that popular culture element actually go back to this event with John Dee. This guy was a real influencer. Of course, the method was already known and used, but it has become part of the culture because of Dee. Dee named this egg-sized crystal the Shoe Stone and tried to activate it for weeks, according to Angel Uriel's instructions, but failed. He decided to get help from known crystal seers, but most of them were imposters, and none of them could succeed until 1582, when a very unusual man personally contacted John Dee and introduced himself. The journey that would last for years for Edward Kelley and John Dee began that night. However, the end of this journey would not turn out as they had expected. History does not know exactly where this mysterious man came from, but it knows his life well. According to some historians, Kelley was a person who studied theology at Oxford University, while for others he was someone who had been trained by known pharmacists at the time. As I said, no one knows his origin precisely, but everyone knows about his journey. In the late 1870s, Kelley, during his tours in Wales, goes to a local inn to rest one night. Of course, this eccentric man with his peculiar clothing catches the attention of the innkeeper, and they start a conversation. After hours passed, the innkeeper brought him a book which he had kept hidden for a long time, as he thought that Kelley was a knowledgeable person. The innkeeper said that the book was brought by a group of Protestant soldiers during the religious wars. The soldiers found the book while robbing the grave of a rich Catholic priest. It wasn't just the book, but also 2 ivory globes were buried along with it. The soldiers broke one globe at the inn, and when nothing but some unknown black dust emerged from it, they traded the objects with the innkeeper for a few days of food and lodging. Kelley buys the globe and the book from the innkeeper and starts researching them, making a shocking discovery. The book is not an ordinary priest's book. It is the lost book of St. Dunstan himself. Dunstan was a renowned alchemist at that time. This excites Kelley a lot because it was believed that St. Dunstan had discovered the Philosopher's Stone, the most crucial ingredient in alchemy. So the black dust inside the ivory balls could be the so-called Philosopher's Stone itself. Indeed, Kelley was not wrong in his guess. The substance was a tiny amount of the Philosopher's Stone, the mystic substance capable of turning ordinary metals into pure gold. Of course, Kelley starts to look for an expert who is more knowledgeable than himself in order to both unravel the secrets of the book and synthesize the substance more. In those days, in England, there was only one person who fit that description, the famous scholar John Dee. This is how destiny brought the two together. According to his diaries, John Dee immediately saw the light in Kelley and stated that he achieved great success in his crystal reading trials with him. Dee eventually takes Kelley with him, and the pair's sessions to communicate with celestial beings officially start. From what we understand from Dee's books, the two clean themselves up, partially fast, and pray before conducting these sessions. Then they would see visions by looking at both the crystal angel Uriel gave to John Dee and the polished black obsidian stone on the table. More precisely, Edward Kelley was the seer, and John Dee was the note-taker. As mentioned earlier, John Dee is an extremely knowledgeable person, and naturally he has knowledge about the legend of Prophet Enoch. Enoch has always been a prophet who has been deeply researched and paid importance to by mysticism researchers. To those of you who have watched my video about him, there's no need for me to explain why he was so important. The man vividly described the celestial hierarchy to us. We genuinely are a lucky generation in terms of informational availability. People struggled strenuously for hundreds of years to gather information about Enoch, but most of them were only able to access crumbs. Let me refresh why this happened. Even though the Torah briefly mentioned Prophet Enoch, his information and books had been well protected by the Essenes, Masons, and Hermetic groups before Christianity. However, after Christian Rome formed the Bible, the book was classified as dangerous and started to be collected and destroyed for the peace of the religion established by Rome. And the secret groups I mentioned earlier have hidden the last copies they had, literally at risk of their lives, and retreated into the shadows. Because of this, information and books related to Prophet Enoch have almost completely disappeared from the stage of history from 200 AD until the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in the 1950s. That is why the first thing Dee and Kelley asked from the angels was to get deeper information about Enoch. The first entity, who introduced himself as Aviel, gave them the following information about Enoch. God appeared to Enoch, opening his eyes by bestowing his mercy upon him. This allowed him to see and judge the world, a skill that had not been taught to his family due to their fall. God said, "Show Enoch the true reason for the creation of the world. Enoch is wise and his soul is pure." In response, Enoch said to God, "Let this mercy be remembered, and let those who come after me know you. Do not allow these things to be forgotten, my God." These words pleased God, and Enoch was given 50 days to write down the information. The title of the book was Let those who fear God and are worthy of him read. In the next session, Dee asks the angel to bring the lost information written by Enoch, but received the following answer: I cannot bring you the tablet, but I can bring you the book. Dee does not exactly understand what this means, but a few days later, the angel brings them an alphabet consisting of 21 characters. Remember that Dee is a linguist. However, the symbols he saw were new to him and did not match with any known language family to date. This was the very language initially taught to Adam, the mysterious language known in history as Enochian. At first, the two could not make sense of these alphabet letters, their meanings or sounds. But in the following sessions, according to Kelley's description, the angels inserted a sword made of fire into his head, and Kelley went into a trance where he could speak the Enochian language. Though this was a challenging and painful experience for Kelley, the two started to learn the pronunciations and meanings of these language letters. Shortly after, a book referred to as 49 Leaves by Kelley, and written as 49 Tablets in religious notes, begins to be presented to them. The angels called it Loagith, which means God's holy speech. But these tablets do not come together to form a book where everything is written outright. On the contrary, they come in a structure comprising 49 rows and 49 columns with irregular letter sequences. In short, the book is encoded. Exactly 1 year after the alphabet and the Book of Loagith came, another angel named Nalvaga joined their sessions. This angel brings them the 48 key sounds that will reveal the secret of the 49 tablets. I have come to enlighten you. With this tablet consisting of 49 tablets and 48 sounds, you can open the hidden doors of understanding. Pass through the doors as much as you want. Learn the secret and knowledge of the tablets rightfully and fairly from the cities behind the doors. This is genuinely peculiar. Are the open doors different dimension portals? Are they divine gates to other dimensions? Or are they things that refer to purely conscious progression? Unfortunately, we don't know about this. However, the following saying of the angel is rather thought-provoking. When humanity solves the secret of these doors, they will find the end. Dee has described this in his notes as a new era following a conscious leap. But as I mentioned before, these celestial beings strangely do not seem to view our progression very favorably. There is a verse that says, "Before the day of judgment, you will all be destroyed." Could it be referring to the destruction of humanity once again at a time when humanity has made much progression in science? That's a mystery. After the sessions, Dee and Kelley leave England to wander around Europe in order to unravel the secrets of the 49 coded tablets conveyed to them. They search for different books to help them explore the secret of these mysterious words. This journey lasts for 7 full years. According to the information we have from Dee's remaining books, I want to share with you some of the subjects and contents of the tablets. By the way, for those wondering how these men received the messages, let me explain the technique. Kelley stated that when he went into a trance in front of the crystals, he saw an angel marking letters on huge tablets with a stick in his hand. So, like you see on the screen, the angel shows a letter from the table, and Kelley gives information to Dee, like the 3rd tablet, 5th column, 4th row, etc. In this way, Dee finds that letter from the previously passed tablet in his hands and writes it down, and thus, the letters line up to form sentences. The subjects of the tablets are as follows: the creation of the world and its purpose, the names of the holy angels and celestial rulers, hidden knowledge on subjects like mathematics, astronomy, alchemy, moral values and spiritual development, apocalyptic periods and the end of time. I'll also read a few examples of direct messages from the angels. Do not be deceived by false prophets and empty promises, because the true path to God is within you. The road to enlightenment is narrow and rugged. However, those who persevere will find the treasure of wisdom. The grand cosmic clock is ticking, and its chimes herald the advent of a new age. Do not forget the soul in the pursuit of health, because spiritual well-being is the true source of vitality. Disease is a reflection of imbalance. It is a call to restore the harmony in the body and soul. It is possible to find dozens of more messages like these. Within the past 7 years, especially Kelley starts to become less able to endure the sessions and the things they do before them, like severe diet and prayer ceremonies. He repeatedly requests Dee to free him from these studies, but Dee convinces him to continue this holy mission as the work is very important. However, during a period they are in Prague, in his spare time, Kelley starts to indulge in alchemy, which had been his primary interest. Using the book and the philosophy stone powder he had previously bought from the innkeeper, he successfully manages to turn an ordinary metal into gold right in front of King Rudolph II and the nobles. Naturally, this event causes immediate shock, and Edward Kelley's name becomes the talk of all Europe. The first crack in the 7-year partnership between the two occurs here, because Kelley starts to abandon the work on the holy language and devote himself entirely to alchemy with the popularity he gained. But John Dee still insists on using Kelley for his sessions, and one day that incredible event occurs. During a session, the angels told Kelley to share everything with John Dee, including their wives. Neither Kelley nor Dee can accept this order and think that the session is haunted by demons. But in the following sessions they hold, the order does not change, and they eventually decide that it indeed is a divine order and decide to obey. Kelley spends the night with Dee's second wife, who is 30 years younger than him, and 9 months later, Dee's wife gives birth to a child. Although John Dee says the child is his, the timing is quite significant. However, after this incident, the bond between the two is completely broken, and they no longer wish to work together. John Dee is reinstated in his position by Queen Elizabeth. However, over the years, the public has become stricter about magic, esoteric issues, and alchemy, and they have lost their respect for those dealing with these matters. After the death of Queen Elizabeth, Dee has been dismissed from his job. He loses his wife and daughter due to the Black Plague destroying the country and the economy, and at the age of 71, Dee starts selling his books to make a living. He closes his eyes to life as a forgotten, lonely, and poor man at the age of 81. A more dramatic fate awaits Edward Kelley. After his extraordinary experiment in front of King Rudolph, he suddenly rises among the nobles. He is even granted the title of knight directly by King Rudolph, and lands and mansions are allocated to him. Of course, all for a single thing in return: to produce gold with alchemy. After living a lavish life for a few years, the day comes when Kelley runs out of powder. And despite his efforts, he has been unable to synthesize a new one. For this reason, he is thrown into the dungeon by the king, and his titles are taken from him. During an escape attempt one night, Kelley falls from the watchtower of the dungeon, breaking his legs. But he is thrown back into the dungeon in his injured state and dies a few days later from his injuries. So how is it that we still have information about the topic, despite both men dying as outcasts? Actually, this is due to an interesting coincidence. I mentioned that John Dee sold his books for money. However, he doesn't sell some of his books concerning the Enochian language and hides them in a secret compartment to protect them from looters after his death. Dee dies, and 50 years later, a wealthy man buys the cabinet as a gift for his wife at an auction of Dee's belongings. Eventually, after the cabinet has been used by the family for 20 years, the man's wife realizes that there is a hidden compartment underneath and finds the books that are 70 years old. Experts are called in to investigate the books, but meanwhile, the maid working in the house assumes the books are trash due to their age and rips the pages to burn in the house's fireplace. Thankfully, the lady of the house arrives just in time, and some books are saved. These books are analyzed, archived, and spread to around the world with the advent of the internet, reaching our time. Thanks to Dee being a highly meticulous scribe, even these few remaining sources have provided us with extensive information about the topic. And even today, many people continue to research the subject. Even though a sect called the Golden Dawn claims to perform various magical rituals and communicate with angels using these notes, considering that the leader of these men was the drug-addicted sexual predator Aleister Crowley, I think we shouldn't pay too much attention to what they say. Now, let's examine how much of this extraordinary duo and their stories are true and false. First of all, as I said, John Dee is a very important figure, especially for the English Empire. Why? Because, as I mentioned earlier, he has an additional feature. He is a master spy and one of the founders and trainers of England's first intelligence service. Moreover, let me give you an interesting piece of information. Do you know what the signature was that John Dee used in the letters he wrote directly to Queen Elizabeth about this intelligence service? 007. That's right. Ian Fleming took the famous code of the James Bond character directly from the code signature in John Dee's letters. I've told you, the man is a substantial influencer. Some researchers argue that John Dee used these fantastic topics merely to travel between countries and get close to kings and lords, and for espionage. When you think about it, it makes sense. Almost no important person left that the man didn't meet during his 7 years of traveling. But there is a problem with this theory. Normally, we would expect Dee to continue his role in the state and live a decent life after such a mission, right? But no. The man is ignored by the king, loses all his possessions, and is forgotten. However, despite selling everything, he still keeps and protects his books about the Enochian language. Now let's look a bit to Edward Kelley's side. When describing Edward Kelley, it is often said that the tops of his ears were cut off, a punishment for swindlers and fraudsters in those days. So, the man has a checkered past. Basing on this, some researchers claim that Kelley had only attached himself to Dee as a source of income, and deceived him into thinking he was receiving and transmitting a language from angels. But there are big gaps in this claim too. Firstly, he has stated multiple times that he did not want to continue with these sessions anymore, as the semi-hypnotic state was very tiring for him. However, he was convinced many times by Dee to continue. What's more, remember the 49 tablets given by the angels. Each one has 49 lines and 49 columns. This makes a total of 117,649 characters. And Kelley says he sees the positions of these during his semi-trance state and conveys them to Dee accordingly. So, for him to be making up the sentences, he must memorize the positions of all 2,401 characters on each tablet. This is highly unlikely. Moreover, the words derived were actually transmitted in reversed reading, so that Kelley wouldn't accidentally invoke divine powers while uttering these phrases. Why would someone go through all this trouble just for deception? You can maneuver the story any way you want and come face to face with interesting and unique facts. But the backbone of the main story doesn't change, which is that these two men really dedicated 7 years of their lives to communicating with angels and protected their books as much as they could after that. Unfortunately, all the detailed discussions from the sessions have disappeared due to the incidents I mentioned earlier. But if you want to research the topic, you can read John Dee's books. So, what do you think the truth is? Did John Dee unravel the secret of a sacred and ancient language? Or was it just a cover for a spy mission? If so, was such an elaborate deception necessary? Did Edward Kelley genuinely possess the Philosopher's Stone and convert metal into gold in front of the king thanks to it? This event alone leads us to the question, could the Philosopher's Stone have been found? As I said, it's a very intriguing historical event, no matter how you look at it. Write your theories in the comments section. I'm Ethan Godfrey. If you enjoyed the video, you can support me by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel. Take care and thanks for watching.